All right, Vince, we're here for a YouTube exclusive for Truth and Consequences. We got a ton of feedback for last week's show, last episode, which you should download now at RussoCoonTWC.com, which was Hulk Hogan and TNA. What was the reaction that you got for the show?
I think it was overall a good, a good reaction. I think, Matt, the good thing is we spoke about a lot of things I never spoke about before. And I literally never spoke about them before because I just wasn't asked. So, I think we got a lot of things out there that people really heard for the first time, and it might have filled in some of the blanks for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a missing part of recent wrestling history. People do not know the story of Hulk Hogan and TNA, and you filled it in. We had some questions, follow-up questions, to put this issue finally to bed and really leave no stone unturned by our Twitter followers at RussoCoonDWC. Are you ready to answer a couple questions?
Absolutely.
So one of them, and I think a lot goes with, people forget how long ago this was a timeline with Bret Hart.
Yeah.
And I think you cleared it up on Twitter, but for those who listen who might not be on Twitter, what is the timeline discrepancy with Bret Hart as far as, they said he was in WWE at the time that Hogan was in TNA. To the best of your recollection, when did the Bret Hart thing happen with Bischoff?
Well, Matt, I got to tell you, two things, bro. I'm gifted at one thing that I am absolutely unbelievable at. Okay, bro? You could give me any person, a celebrity, a singer, anybody, bro. I can give you within 3 years of how old they are. And I am right 100% of the time. And I swear to God, it's unbelievable. Where I'm really bad is, I'm bad in timelines, especially in wrestling. And, Matt, I think a lot of that has to do with, again, bro, the amount of writing we did every week. Writing 2 shows every week, writing the pay-per-views. We did so much constant work, and I really think that screws up my timelines. Plus the fact that when I was writing for other companies, I was not watching the WWE. I was working. So I really don't know, or I really didn't know, what the timeline was with Bret. When did he first appear on WWE TV? I do know this. This I do know, and I'll tell you why I know. My conversation with Bret was closer to the end, because that situation that took place with Eric, that was the beginning of the end between me working there. Because right then and there, bro, I knew my relationship with him was over. Nobody was going to fix it. Dixie wasn't going to call in lawyers to fix it. It was over. So, it was definitely later on in my run in TNA. But, like I said, the fact that I didn't watch WWE programming, but he definitely was available when he was speaking to me. He didn't have a contract with WWE. He didn't have a deal in place with WWE. He was definitely available.
And to the best of your recollection, regardless of the timeline, it was Eric Bischoff who said, "We don't want Bret Hart, and here's why, and here's why, and here's why, and here's why."
See, that's the thing. Quite honestly, people were asking me the questions, and I was. The bottom line is that the date means nothing. When I had that conversation with him, it really means nothing.
Well, I think people are just always looking to poke holes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get that, but bro, I'll be the first thing, bro. You're gonna poke holes in my timelines all day long. I'm just telling you, bro. I put a lot of hours in. I work for 3 different companies. If that's gonna be the MO, and bro, I am gonna be the first one to say I was wrong and you're right. But the timeline really had nothing to do with the story, bro.
And that is the truth. For me, the headline is Bret Hart could have come into TNA and didn't, and Bischoff was the reason why. So here's a great question. This is from Graham Williams, who is someone who is a follower for a few of the podcasts, a listener to a few of the podcasts I do, but he's a huge Russo Coon TWC, Truth with Consequences fan. Being such a fan of his, if Hogan would have come to TNA as just talent, without creative control and without Bischoff in tow, do you think he could have handled him? Do you think you could have handled him creatively in such a way that he could have really affected ratings in a positive way?
Well, bro, I'll be honest with you. Take away if he would have come to TNA as just as a talent. If he would have come to TNA without Eric Bischoff, I don't think there would have been any problem with him if he was involved creatively. See, the one thing about Hulk, bro, that I found out creatively was Hulk never had the attitude that my way is the right way and the only way. That was not, and I think Hulk kind of knew, like, that's really not my thing. Like, I can give you my 2 cents, I could pitch in, I can give you my opinion, but he never took a firm stand like this we're doing this. Where Eric did. Where, like, Eric always believed his idea was the best way, and, you know, your ideas suck and yada yada yada. So let Hulk keep the creative part of it. Let him be a talent and let him be involved creatively. I don't think there would have been any issues whatsoever if Eric Bischoff was not a part of that equation.
This comes from Ash Taylor at #213. Of course, you can follow us at Russo Kun TWC on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Do you think TNA would have been a success if Jim Ross did come on board in the role that they thought he could?
That's a tough question, because the question is, would Dixie Carter have allowed him to do what he needed to do and not interfere? That's really the question, and I don't know the answer to that. If Jim Ross would have came in and been able to do what Jim Ross thought he needed to do, 1,000% the company could have got over huge. If she would have kind of stuck her nose in, like I know she did creatively, and gotten involved where she really shouldn't have, and Jim could not do 100% what he needed to do, probably not.
So this comes from very interactive listener California in Fury, and it has to do with the 6-sided ring and the change to the 4-sided ring. Was it true that Hogan and Bischoff pushed to change the ring from the 6-sided to the 4? Yeah. And what were those conversations like?
1,000%, Matt. I got to tell you, the 6-sided ring idea came from me, and I'll tell you why. When Jeff was just starting the company, he was looking for ways. How do we make this different from the WWE? That's what he was looking for, bro. I just happened to see something from Mexico around that time. I think it was AAA, and I saw the 6-sided ring. So I said, well, Jeff, right there, using that 6-sided ring, here in the States, that right there, the minute you turn on the show, it's going to give the show a different look. So I was the one who suggested that to Jeff. He ultimately made the decision. That was the first thing Hogan and Bischoff. I mean, bro, I literally think that was the first thing on their list. Get rid of the 6-sided ring, make it a 4-sided ring, and again, I was, bro, that was one of the things that made TNA different. Now, if you go back to the 4-sided ring, it's going to be that much more similar to the WWE, but it's going to be WWE light.
And we'll probably talk about the 6-sided ring more on a future episode of Truth with Consequences. There was one area we mentioned, but we didn't really go into in depth. Bubba the Love Sponge. What was the experience with him coming in, and why did he leave so suddenly?
Well, obviously, Hogan, brought him in. Bro, I got to be honest with you. Here's where, people again. Bro, I thought Bubba was good. I thought Bubba was good on the mic. I thought Bubba knew how to cut a promo. I guess because of his friendship with Hogan or whatnot, he understood wrestling. I actually thought Bubba was good. The problem was, because Hulk clearly brought him in, people were going to shit on that. Like the guy never had a chance. But I can remember seeing him cut, in-ring promos where he was a great heel. He cut a great promo, and I actually thought the guy did a good job. I can't remember, bro, exactly what led to his exit. I know it came rather quickly. Maybe it had something to do with the fight with Awesome Kong. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know exactly what led to that.
And you don't have any more information or any firsthand knowledge of that infamous backstage fight between
Bro,
Awesome Kong?
I saved Bubba's life. I pulled Kong off of Bubba. Me. That was me.
Okay, so how did it all get started?
Bro, we were in the back. We were in the back shooting pre-tapes, literally shooting pre-tapes, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this commotion. And I turn around, and like probably within 100 feet of me, like I could see Bubba and Kong was verbally attacking Bubba. And I'm thinking at first, like, this is a work. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was so surreal. Kong and Bubba the Love Sponge. Right. Bro, next thing I know, she's mauling him. I mean, mauling him. And, bro, I got to give Bubba credit, bro, because Bubba was, like, in self-defense protection mode. Like, Bubba was just trying to protect. Bro, she started freaking mauling him, and he was not hitting her back or nothing like that. He was literally like, and I saw that, and I'm like, holy shit. And I was the first guy on the scene, and I literally, like, with every ounce of strength I had in my body, I wrapped my arms around her and, like, just ripped her off him. But I mean, bro, it was like a freaking bear, like, mauling a child, man. And I really felt bad for Bubba because, bro, he didn't. It was something he had said on his radio show she didn't like. You know, Bubba didn't instigate it. Bubba didn't start with her. I mean, nothing. He just got attacked. What was that?
It was something about Haiti.
Yeah, something about Haiti. But oh my God, bro, like she mauled him.
That's surprising because I interviewed her once with Dutch Mantell. While we were interviewing her, she was handing out water to the homeless. And then I got to spend some time with her in StarCast. And she seems like the nicest, chillest person around. It must have seemed out of character for her to act like that.
She's a sweetheart of a girl. Sweetheart, sweetheart, sweetheart. I mean, I loved her when I worked with her. I've spoken to her since I've worked with her. She's a sweetheart of a woman, bro. So I don't remember exactly what he said, but for some reason that really affected her.
Well, I think that puts to bed our episode 2 of Truth with Consequences, Hulk Hogan and TNA. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. But before we go, I want to do a little bit of a preview about, I think we're going to call the episode The Complete History of Vince Russo and Jim Cornette, coming up this Sunday, which would be October 21st on Westwood 1. And it's funny to me, you have two guys with heavy accents, two guys with very fervent fan bases, two guys with very deep histories, two guys who have a very specific view on the way wrestling should be and what makes a good wrestling program or a good entertainment program, but two guys who just cannot get along. What do we have to see? What do we have to listen to? What do we have to look forward to on the upcoming episode of The Complete History of Jim Cornette and Vince Russo?
God, bro, I literally think, man, it's going to kind of be like just walking into a psychiatrist office and laying on the couch. Because I'm being honest, man, I've tried to figure out Jim Cornette. I mean, I really, really have. Bro, you could disagree with my philosophy, and there are a lot of people out there that disagree with my philosophy and hate me because of my philosophy. Bro, I'm not going to hate you because your wrestling philosophy is different than mine. I mean, I'm just not going to do that. There's so many different ways to present professional wrestling. And Matt, a lot of it is going to come from what you were brought up in. I was brought up in the WWF. That's what I saw. That's what I was brought up in. I was brought up in Vince McMahon Sr. and then Vince McMahon Jr. And there was a certain way they did things. And that is what gave me my style. And that is what gave me my psychology. Bro, I've worked with everybody in the business. I mean, you name it. And psychology's very different. Yeah, and what I always looked at is, okay, where were they from? What did they see? Working with Bill Watts and knowing Bill Watts' background, working with Eric, knowing Eric's background, working with Jerry Jarrett, knowing Jerry's background. So that's why when I was in a room with all these people where their ideas were so different than mine, I understood it was because of the territory they grew up on. And bro, I used to look at that as like an educational tool. Like, because I wasn't in, I wasn't in, Texas with Watts, and I wasn't around for the early USWA days and, Crockett. I wasn't around that stuff. So when different people brought that stuff to the table, I really tried to listen and get and understand, oh, that's why they did that, and that's why it's this way today. That's how I handled it. With Cornette, it was like, bro, if you disagreed with his philosophy and the way he wanted to do things, I mean, bro, he's just going to dog you for the rest of your life, pretty much.
Well, I think evidence has showed that to be the case, and we're going to go through the complete history from, the WWF through TNA, and of course through the thing that happened a couple years ago that you say you're going to clear up in regards to the restraining order and all those battling YouTube videos.
Yeah, no, absolutely, bro. And I try not to talk about Jim because, bro, I say one word about Jim and it's 6 months of material for him. But the bottom line is, we talked about, listen, man, we're going to talk about what the people want to talk about on this show. And I told you to add that because if they want to talk about Jim Cornette, I promised I'm not going to back down from anything. I am going to talk about on this show what people want me to talk about, and that's what they voted for.
Did you see the poll results, by the way? Did you see what it was between Montreal, Bash the Beach 2000, and Jim Cornette? And I think Jim Cornette got about 60%.
Yeah, well, I figured that, yeah. And that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to talking about it, and we're going to try to listen to it and find out about it with open minds and open ears. Before we go, let's talk about just a tiny bit of modern wrestling. We don't really talk about the current product, but something happened the other night in Impact Wrestling. A guy who said he wanted to knock you out appeared to participate in a very Vince Russo-esque angle or work. Some people think it could be a shoot, but Austin Aries lost the Impact heavyweight title to John Morrison. He took the finisher. Soon it was over, he stood up, not selling it, flipped off the audience, and walked out of the ring. It seems a little Buff Bagwell first Russo Nitro to me. What did you think about that, and have you heard anything about that?
Well, I did not see it, but I heard about that. And from what I understand now, did he flip off Don Callis, or was it?
Yeah, I think that, let me correct that. Someone did say that he did face the announcers, the announcer booth, and flipped off the announcer booth, which included Don Callis. Now, you said Don Callis is kind of more of an entertainment-oriented guy.
And the fact that he flipped off Don Callis, I know Don Callis. I worked with Don. And I always liked him, and I was always pushing for him. I know he thinks a lot like I do. I mean, the whole to show exactly what I'm talking about. The whole Bordeaux thing. What's her first name?
Scarlett, is that her name?
Yeah, Scarlett Bordeaux. I mean, Don Callis is clearly bringing sexy back. I mean, that's the whole gimmick. We're bringing we like sexy. We're bringing sexy back. If you don't like sexy, tough shit. It's that kind of an attitude. So when I heard about this and I kept reading he flipped off Callis, I'm like, bro, this sounds exactly like Don Callis because I know him and I think similar. Here's the problem, bro. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And this is unfortunate. Okay? When things like this happen, okay, bro, the dirt sheet media is going to bury it. Because, like, this is strictly entertainment. This is strictly storyline. To them, it's going to be breaking kayfabe and all that crap. They will bury it across the board. Now, I know, like with Dixie Carter, when the internet buried something, okay, she would do everything she possibly could to force us to put the kibosh on it. And basically what her MO was, I'm going to keep bringing this up until you get tired of hearing me. And then we'd get tired of hearing her and say, F it, it's not worth it, man. I don't want to hear her. I mean, that's what we used to do. Bro, they're the smallest audience with the loudest voice. Okay, that's what the internet community is. Okay, but unfortunately, bro, if you're going to listen to them and all of a sudden they're burying this and they're hating this and you're going to let them dictate you pulling the plug on something, it's a huge mistake. Because if you go with it, and if Don Callis goes with it, and if Don Callis ignores the critics and lets the story play out, it will bleed into the casual wrestling fans, and it will bleed into, the television viewers, and it could be a story that they're interested in. But, bro, the internet media in this day and age, they have put on a lot of pressure that makes people creatively and prematurely kill angles.
Well, that's the final word from Vince Russo on the Austin Aries thing. Of course, we have the Jim Cornette Vince Russo show coming up. If you want to hear more Vince Russo unfiltered, completely full Vince Russo, 8 shows a week, 7 shows a week, a show every single day on the Realm Network with co-hosts, of course, Jeff Lane, your co-host on so many of those shows, but also Disco, Stevie Richards, Big Vito, Ben Hameen, Goldilocks, so many different shows. You can check out the Realm Network, and you can get that for just like $1 a week, right?
Yeah, and that's going to be, Matt, 10 shows starting November 1st.
What is your new show?
The Mark and Mark Show.
Oh, great. So that's...
You know what the Mark and Mark Show is?
I have no idea.
The Mark and Mark Show is these two familiar-looking total wrestling marks that love New Japan, embrace the dirt sheets, love long 2, 3, 4 hour wrestling matches, and they give their views on the wrestling business.
Oh my God. Okay, so it sounds a little bit to me like it might be a little bit like the Colbert Report or something like that. I don't know if you ever watched that, but
yeah, I did. Yes.
Yeah, something like that. It sounds like.
Very much so.
All right. Well, looking forward to it. We're going to go ahead and start talking Cornette very soon, and it'll be out Sunday, October 21st, 2018. Thanks, Vince, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Matt.